Sure, by now all of you are aware that Woodmo are the online expert when it comes to spare parts, and the best point is that they have the spare parts for all vehicles available in India. So even if your car is out of production now, maybe you have a last generation model, even then they have the spare part available. They have the entire catalog, and the best point is that they have the same spare part from a host of different component makers, which gives you great flexibility in the pricing overall. So check them out today. Check out the app. It's available both for iOS as well as Android devices. Hi guys, how you all doing? Now I'm driving the 1-liter version of the Skoda Slavia, and this one makes about 115 bhp. There's also another engine, 1.5, and that video will come out later. So if you're interested in that video, please subscribe to this channel. Just another reminder. Well, how is this car to drive? The 1-liter turbocharged engine, it's a TSI engine. I have to say that in terms of the driving bits, it is quite nice. It's a 3-cylinder unit, so it does feel a little rough, and it's not as silky smooth as the bigger engine, but we'll talk about that on some other day. Now this one is quite nice to drive. Power delivery is quite okay, and it starts responding from around 1800-1700 rpm, which is decent. What you like about this car is the driving bits. It's got a stiff chassis and a stiff suspension setup, which means that enthusiasts will enjoy this car. And Skoda has said that this is a TSI, which TSI usually stands for enthusiastic driving. Enthusiasts prefer this engine and power delivery and stuff like that, so they'll enjoy this car quite a lot. That said, because of the stiffness, some people who are middle class people like me and who prefer to be chauffeur driven, they might feel some of those jhatkas and some of those badly patched roads. Some of them might enter the cabin because of slight stiffness in the suspension setup, so that's something you've got to watch out for. And sometimes the suspension can also become a little noisy over those bad ruts and joints on those bridges and those flyovers. So that's again something which doesn't make you uncomfortable, but it's something which is there on the suspension setup. Other than that, the steering wheel is ultra light. It's an ultra light unit to operate, which means that it's great for city travel. You won't get tired at the end of a long day. But if you want to drive on the highway and you're taking it out on a racetrack or maybe going up the hills, then maybe, just maybe, you would have wanted a little more feel, a little more feedback from the steering wheel, and a little more weight. Definitely, it's quite okay. It's not bad. Don't get me wrong. It's one of the best in the segment at the moment. But yes, a little more weight would have been welcome. How is it in comparison to the Honda City in terms of ride comfort? Well, the Honda definitely has a slightly softer setup. It feels a little softer compared to this car in terms of the outright ride comfort, and that's something which a lot of family owners will definitely notice when they take this car out for a spin. What else is good about the car? The gearbox is nice to operate. It's got a light action to it. The clutch also is pretty positive. And I've not driven the automatic version of the 1-liter today. I'm just driving this manual version. So we will reserve our judgment of the automatic 1-liter. But I have to say that this one feels quite okay to operate. And of course, it is at par with its other rivals. Visibility is good. Even though the mirrors over here are tiny, even then, the visibility is quite okay and quite good, and the rear visibility also is quite good despite having 3 headrests at the back. Overall though, I'll give it a decent score of 89 out of 100. The reason I am not giving it more, because sometimes this 1-liter engine can become a little loud when you push it on the highway, and noise isolation in the cabin also, it's good, but when you push it on the highway, it can become a little loud because, as I said, it is a 3-cylinder motor, and 3-cylinder engines aren't the smoothest out there in the market. Well, so let me quickly tell you about some negatives of the car first before talking about the positives. The first negative, of course, is that the AC controls are over here and they're right below. Let me just put the gear lever at the back. And these are all touch controls. So this is something which buyers, they'll have to take their eye off the road when they're using this setup. And that's something which I think is not that appealing. They should have given you rotary type knobs for this. And also, the display over here is very small and very tiny. So that's something which takes a little getting used to. It's also quite down below in the setup, so definitely you have to take your eyes off the road. The second negative is that the start stop button, you can't locate it anywhere, not here, because it's in its traditional place where the key fob goes. So initial use again will have a bit of an issue, just trying to figure out where that start stop button is. The third thing which I didn't like is the fact that indicator stalks are still placed for a left-hand drive car, or a car which has its steering over here on this side. So the right stalks, where you usually have your indicators, is still operating the wipers. So that's something which, again, I think Skoda's been in India for over 20 years. They should have fixed this because they're selling the cars in India and not in Europe. So those are three things which I didn't particularly like. Other than that, it's quite a nice place to be. Seat comfort is quite decent. How is it compared to the Honda City in terms of seat comfort? It's just a step behind the City. The City just feels a little more cushiony. This one doesn't feel as cushiony as the Honda City in terms of outright comfort. Other than that, you get lots of places to keep your odds and ends. You of course get wireless charging for a mobile phone, 2 USB Type-C charging points over here, and you get 2 at the back as well, which we'll show you in a bit. And apart from this, the door bins are large enough to house those big bottles. At the moment, we've got this surface disinfectant. And the other good thing is that the steering wheel is nice to grip. It's a very nice steering wheel, and only a 2-spoke steering wheel. There's no third spoke over here, so it's a very different kind of steering wheel. Digital dials which look very good. You can of course change the look and feel of the dials. That's something again which is a nice touch on this car, and a nice screen. The other bit of negative which I forgot initially is the fact that the touchscreen over here, the rear parking camera on the touchscreen, it doesn't have very good definition, very low definition. So that's the fourth negative inside the cabin of this car. Should have been high definition, and that's something which you won't appreciate. But as I said, there are 4 positives as well. And those positives, of course, are that you get cool front seats, digital dials for the display, which look very nice, a large touchscreen with lots of fancy stuff, and of course, a cool glove box. It's a large one, and it's also cool, which definitely means that long distance journeys will be a nice affair inside this car. Anyways, what do you think of the looks of the car? What do you think of the look and feel? I honestly think that it looks a little simplistic and should have been a little more jazzed up. It's a simplistic design, and even though it's quite nice, the build quality is quite good, maybe they should have given it a little bit more in terms of the overall styling. At least I'm in the back seat and see how good that really is. Well, so here I'm in the back seat now of the Slavia, and I have to say that's a very impressive place to be in. Now, my chauffeur for today, my colleague is Javed, who's 6'2", and he's driving us around briefly. And I can say that I'm 5'10", but loads of space here. I think it's the best car in segment, and it shows in terms of the knee room. Headroom also is generous and quite okay. And this is a genuine 3-seat at the back. You can see you get 3 head restraints over here, and of course you get a 3-point belt as well, which means that it's a genuine 3-seater. Floorboard is almost flat, which again means that the central passenger has plenty of place to stretch his feet, and the seats also are quite good in comfort. Large window area, which means that whoever's sitting here will be quite happy. The suspension setup though is slightly on the firmer side, so some of those badly passive roads and maybe some of those rumble strips might just filter in. They won't be uncomfortable, but you will feel them, and that's something which you have to negotiate with. If you compare it with the Honda City, which is its main rival, definitely compared to that car, it is just half a step behind in terms of the ultimate comfort. But yes, as I said, you get more space over here in the back, but the ride comfort definitely is slightly better because the City has a softer suspension setup compared to the Slavia. Overall though, I'll give the backseat experience of this car a good score of 9 out of 10. If you are someone who drives the entire in the backseat and you always give orders to your chauffeur, then you'll enjoy the Skoda Slavia quite a lot. Talking about the boot, well, it's the best boot on the segment. 525 litres, that's what Skoda is claiming. It's very spacious, very practical, nice and deep. The only slight negative is the fact that over here you can see the aperture is decent. Could have been slightly better to easily load in those big boxes without any fuss. Overall though, I think it's a nice and balanced design. Skoda says that this car is actually bigger than even the original Octavia, which was launched almost 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago now. And they say that this is a bigger and more powerful car because the 1.5 TSI is 150 bhp, and that's exactly how the Octavia RS was, 150 bhp. So what do you think of the looks? Let me know in the comments section below. Well, so the big question is, should you buy this car? Should you simply ignore it and buy something else? or should you go ahead and buy the Kushaq instead? Well, if you're planning to buy the Kushaq, I'll suggest that you buy this one because it gets more space in the back, it gets a bigger boot, and it gets the same features, and it's quite nice to drive as well. That said, if you're in the market for a diesel car, then you won't be able to buy a diesel on this because there's only petrol. So the City still remains a better car to drive in terms of diesel power, and also the City's backseat experience offers you a little more rich and premium feel. So if those things are important to you, then the City is still the choice for you. But if you want great driving pleasure as well as a huge build quality and big interiors in terms of space and the boot, then definitely keep this car in your shortlist. Don't ignore it completely, but keep it in your shortlist. It's bye for now, and thanks so much for watching.